Kael Draven had ruled the Nightpine Pack for 10 long years, and in all that time, his territory had never once been broken. He was known across the northern lands as a leader of iron discipline, a man whose word was law, and whose gaze could silence a room full of restless wolves. The pack respected him, many of them feared him, but those who knew him best understood that beneath his hard exterior lived a heart that beat for only one person. That person was Elara. She was his mate, the Luna of Nightpine, and she was nothing like him. Where Kael was sharp and commanding, Elara was gentle and quiet. She was a healer by nature, spending her days tending to the sick and comforting the wounded. She spoke softly, moved carefully, and never raised her voice, even when others raised theirs at her. Many members of the pack mistook her kindness for weakness. They whispered that their Luna was too soft to stand beside such a powerful alpha, that she lacked the strength a leader's mate should have. Elara heard these whispers. She always did. But she chose to answer them with patience instead of anger, believing that time would show the pack who she truly was. There was one person, however, who did not intend to give her that time. Her name was Serena. Long before Kael had found his mate, Serena had stood at his side. She had been his companion in the years when he was still learning to lead, and she had believed, deeply and completely, that she would one day become his Luna. When the mating bond pulled Kael toward Elara instead, something inside Serena broke. She smiled and bowed and pretended to accept it, but in her heart she never let go of the place she felt had been stolen from her. For a long while, Serena waited. She watched, and slowly, quietly, she began to plan. It started with small things. One morning, the pack's store of healing medicine was found ruined, the jars cracked and the herbs spoiled. Elara, as the healer, was the one who kept those stores. The blame fell on her at once. She was careless, some muttered. How can a Luna who cannot even protect our medicine protect our people? Elara knew she had sealed those jars properly. She knew someone had tampered with them, but she had no proof, and so she said nothing, and simply worked twice as hard to replace what had been lost. Then came the feast. During a gathering meant to celebrate the changing of the season, several members of the pack fell ill after eating. It was later discovered that something spoiled had been mixed into the food. Once again, fingers pointed at the Luna. She had helped prepare the meal, after all. Serena made sure to remind everyone of that, her voice full of false concern. I am sure our Luna did not mean for anyone to suffer, Serena said gently, standing before the elders. But intentions do not heal a sick child, do they? The words were soft, but they cut deep. The pack grew colder toward Elara. Mothers pulled their children away when she passed. Warriors lowered their eyes instead of bowing. And worst of all, Kael himself began to grow distant. He did not want to believe the whispers. He knew his mate's heart, but the evidence kept piling up, one strange event after another, and doubt is a poison that works slowly. He found himself watching Elara across the room, wondering, questioning, and hating himself for it. Elara felt him slipping away, and it hurt more than any accusation ever could. She thought about confronting Serena, about accusing her before the pack, but she had no proof, and she knew that an accusation without proof would only make her look more guilty. So she stayed silent, and she suffered, and she waited. But Serena was not finished. In fact, she was only just beginning. Serena decided that small tricks were no longer enough. She wanted Elara gone completely, cast out of the pack forever. And to do that, she needed something far bigger than spoiled medicine or a ruined feast. She needed to make Elara look like a traitor. Late one night, when the halls were dark and quiet, Serena crept into the Luna's private chambers. In her hands, she carried several precious heirlooms that had belonged to the pack for generations, treasures that had recently gone missing from the Great Hall. She hid them carefully among Elara's belongings, tucking them where they would be easy to find. Then she placed one final piece, a letter. The letter was forged in Elara's handwriting, or something close enough to it. In it, the writer promised to share Nightpine's secrets with a rival pack in exchange for protection and power. It was exactly the kind of betrayal that would turn the entire pack against their Luna in an instant. Serena smiled to herself in the darkness. By morning, she thought, Ilara would be finished. The next day, Serena went to the elders with a worried expression and a trembling voice. She claimed she had overheard troubling rumors, and she begged them to search the Luna's chambers, purely to clear Ilara's name, of course. The elders, already full of doubt, agreed. They found the heirlooms, they found the letter, and the pack erupted. A tribunal was called at once. This was the most serious kind of gathering, the kind reserved for crimes that threatened the survival of the whole pack. Every member of Nightpine crowded into the great hall to witness it. At the center stood Ilara, pale and silent, surrounded by the evidence of a betrayal she had never committed. Cale sat upon his seat at the front of the hall, his face like stone. The elders presented the heirlooms and read the letter aloud. Gasps and angry murmurs rolled through the crowd. Serena stood among them, her eyes wet with tears that anyone would have believed were real. "I never wanted this," Serena said, her voice breaking perfectly. "I loved our Luna, but the pack must come first. If she has betrayed us, she must answer for it." The crowd began to call out. Some demanded exile. A few, in their anger, demanded worse. Ilara said nothing to defend herself. She simply looked at Cale, her eyes searching his, silently asking him to remember who she truly was. For a long moment, Cale said nothing at all. His expression did not change, and the whole hall waited, certain that their Alpha King was about to cast his own mate out into the cold. But there was something the pack did not know, something Serena did not know either. Cale had grown suspicious weeks earlier. The strange events had troubled him, yes, but not in the way everyone assumed. The more he thought about them, the less sense they made. Ilara had kept those medicine stores for years without a single problem. She had prepared 100 meals without anyone falling ill. Why would all of this suddenly begin now? And why did every accident seem to point so neatly, so conveniently, toward his mate? A leader does not rule for 10 years without learning to see the difference between bad luck and careful design. So Cale had done something quietly. He had chosen one of his most trusted warriors, a loyal beta named Torin, and he had given him a single task: to watch. To watch the halls at night, to watch the shadows, and to say nothing to anyone. Cale had told no one, not even Ilara, because he needed the truth to reveal itself naturally. And on the very night that Serena crept into the Luna's chambers, Torin had been watching. More than that, Cale himself had been awake, unable to sleep, cloaked in shadow. He had walked the quiet halls to think, and through a narrow gap in a doorway, he had seen with his own eyes the figure slipping into Ilara's rooms. He had watched her hide the heirlooms. He had watched her place the letter. He had recognized her at once. He had seen everything. Cale had said nothing then. He had let the trap play out, because he knew that catching Serena in the middle of the act would not be enough. She would simply claim it was a misunderstanding, or that she had been placing evidence she had found elsewhere. No, Cale needed her to commit fully. He needed her to stand before the entire pack and lie, so that when the truth came out, there could be no doubt at all. And now, at last, the moment had come. Slowly, Cale rose to his feet. The hall fell silent. Everyone expected him to pronounce his mate's punishment. Instead, his voice rang out cold and clear. "Before this tribunal decides anything," he said, "there is something you must all hear." He turned to Torin, who stepped forward from the edge of the crowd. "Tell them," Cale commanded, "what you saw 3 nights ago." Torin bowed his head and spoke. He described the figure he had watched enter the Luna's chambers in the dead of night. He described the objects carried in her hands. He described how she had hidden them and slipped away, believing no one had seen. The crowd began to stir, confused. Then Cale spoke again, and his next words silenced them completely. "Torin was not the only witness," he said. "I saw it too, with my own eyes. I watched the traitor plant those heirlooms. I watched her place that letter, and I know exactly who she is." He turned then, slowly, and his gaze landed on Serena. The color drained from her face. Her tears, which had flowed so easily a moment before, dried at once. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. "The letter is a forgery," Cale continued, his voice growing harder with every word. "The heirlooms were stolen from the great hall and hidden in my mate's rooms. The spoiled medicine, the poisoned feast, every accident that has been blamed upon your Luna, all of it traces back to a single hand, not Elara's hand, hers. He pointed directly at Serena. The hall exploded into shocked voices. Elara stood frozen, tears filling her eyes, but these were not tears of sorrow. They were tears of relief, of gratitude, of a love she had feared was lost, now proven stronger than ever. Serena stumbled backward. "This is a lie," she cried. "He is protecting her, because she is his mate. He would say anything to save her." But the elders had heard Torin. They had heard their Alpha King, and when they examined the letter more closely, they saw the small mistakes in the handwriting, the places where the forgery failed. The truth was undeniable. Serena had been caught. The crowd turned on her now, their anger flowing in a new direction. They demanded to know what Kale would do. They expected the harshest punishment. Exile into the wild lands, perhaps. Some, still furious over the illness and the fear she had caused, whispered of even worse. Kale raised a single hand, and the hall went quiet once more. What he said next left every wolf in the room frozen. "Serena," he said, "you will not be exiled to the wild lands, where you might one day return with tales of injustice. You will not be given the honor of a punishment that others will remember with pity." He paused, and his voice fell low and final. "From this moment on, you have no name. You are packless and unclaimed. You will be escorted beyond our borders with nothing but the clothes you wear. And from this day forward, no wolf of Nightpine will ever speak your name again. You will not be remembered as a villain, nor as a rival, nor as anything at all. You will simply be forgotten, as though you had never existed among us." A stunned silence filled the hall. It was a punishment unlike any they had ever heard. To be erased, to be forgotten completely, was in some ways heavier than any exile. Serena's face crumpled. She had spent her whole life fighting for a place in this pack, for recognition, for importance, and now she would be given none of it. She would vanish, and no one would ever mourn her going. 2 warriors stepped forward and led her away. She did not fight them. She simply walked, her head bowed, as the pack watched in silence. And then she was gone, beyond the borders, into a life where the name Serena would mean nothing to anyone ever again. But Kael was not finished. He turned to Elara, and in front of the entire pack, in front of every elder and warrior and mother and child, the Alpha King did something no one had ever seen him do. He knelt. A gasp swept through the hall. An Alpha King bowing to anyone was almost unheard of. But Kael lowered himself before his mate, his head bent, and he spoke so that all could hear. "I doubted you," he said. "When the whispers grew loud, I let them into my heart, and for that I am deeply sorry. You bore every accusation with grace. You never once struck back with cruelty, even when cruelty was aimed at you. The pack believed your gentleness was weakness, but I see now that it was the greatest strength of all. It takes a strong heart to stay kind when the whole world turns cold." He rose again and faced the pack. "Hear me now," he declared. "From this day forward, Ilara's voice is second only to my own, above the elders, above every warrior. When she speaks, you will listen, as you listen to me. She is not merely my mate. She is your Luna, and she has proven herself worthy of that title 1,000 times over." The hall remained frozen in stunned silence. In a single day, the pack had watched the woman they trusted fall into disgrace, and the woman they had scorned rise higher than any of them had imagined. The wolves who had lowered their eyes at Elara now looked upon her with shame and awe. The mothers who had pulled their children away now nudged them forward to bow. Elara stood tall among them, her tears now dried, her face calm and steady. She had not changed. She was still the gentle healer she had always been. But now the pack understood at last that her gentleness had never been weakness. It had been patience. It had been quiet, unbreakable strength. In the days that followed, Nightpine changed. The pack that had once whispered against their Luna now spoke her name with respect. Elara ruled beside Kael, not with fear, but with wisdom and compassion, and the pack grew stronger than it had ever been. The bond between the Alpha King and his Luna, tested by fire and betrayal, had not broken. It had been forged into something unshakable. And though no one ever spoke Serena's name again, The lesson she left behind was never forgotten. The pack of night pine learned a truth they would carry for generations to come. True weakness was never found in kindness. It was found in mistaking cruelty for strength. And true power belonged not to those who shouted the loudest, but to those who, even in their darkest hour, chose to remain kind. Elara had waited, and patience had proven mightier than any lie. In the end, the gentle healer they had all underestimated became the most beloved Luna Nightpine had ever known, and she and Kale ruled together for many long and peaceful years, their story told and retold as a reminder that a good heart, no matter how quiet, is the strongest force of all.